everyone, it's Catching Tease here. Welcome to my channel where today I am talking about why Love Dive from IVE went viral. Honestly, I could have made this video about a couple of their title tracks, but this was the one that I felt was super pervasive for them, and also it swept awards everywhere. Like, this song was massive. I also want to acknowledge that there is another pretty popular video covering the same topic. My sister told me about it when I told her what my next video was going to be. For full transparency, I have not watched it. I might go back and watch it after making this just to compare, but all of the thoughts here are entirely mine. Also, this is a well-established series of mine. It's like literally the second video on this channel, so I have a precedent for this kind of stuff. You know, I've seen a lot of plagiarism accusations being thrown around in the past month, and I'm not trying to start any of that for myself, so I just want to be very clear here. But okay, let's get on with it now. There was a lot of setup that primed Love Dive for the massive success that it had, so strap in for a very brief history of IVE. It all starts way back in 2018 with this little show called Produce 48. This girl, Wonyoung, finishes in first place, and another girl, Yujin, finishes fifth, so they both end up in this little group called IZ*ONE. I'm sure you've never heard of them. Wonyoung was obviously super popular from the start since she was voted in first, but Yujin went viral during Sequence era to the point that people were literally calling it on Sequence. Basically, these two were huge, and then IZ*ONE disbanded, causing Great Depression within the K-pop community. However, people were tracking where the girls would end up after disbandment and noticed that Yujin and Wonyoung were both going to Starship Entertainment. Sure enough, in late 2021, Starship announced their new girl group, making them the first IZ*ONE girls to re-debut in a group, which basically meant that they got first dibs with IZ*ONE fans. Yujin and Wonyoung debuted in IVE along with 4 other girls, Gaeul, Ray, Liz, and Leeseo. Their debut was incredibly well received, with many people saying that it was the best debut of the 4th generation. 11 was praised for its unique sound and ability to avoid the oversaturated girl crush and teen crush concepts while still having a clear sense of artistic direction. This air of elegance and sophistication was something that hadn't been seen in a girl group debut in quite a while. The IZ*ONE girls pulled a lot of attention, but there was no shortage of appreciation for the other girls. Specifically, I remember Liz going really viral. Their one B-side, Take It, was also, in my opinion, incredible and definitely falls in line with 11 while still differentiating itself. All in all, within a single release, they built a strong identity both sonically and visually. The classy, elegant girls with a sprinkle of attitude, something that would only be built on in their next comeback. So, with the hype train chugging right along for IVE, Starship announced their next comeback, Love Dive, roughly 3 months later, which is a pretty quick turnaround even by K-pop standards. But it proved to be an insanely smart choice as the buzz was quick to generate. After dropping their tracklist, they posted this little promotional video called Dear Cupid, which chances are you have definitely heard somewhere, even if you didn't know it came from IVE. I'm definitely not calling myself out here.
I just want a little bit of peace. Peace.
The little bits of text that pop up during the video also help build the concept up, which is something they continued into their concept photos that were released over the next couple of weeks, and soon the fateful day of release came.
Yeah, it's so bad, it's good.
I was going to split this into separate vocal and instrumental sections, but I'm gonna see if I can cram these together. I love how this song starts right away, like the kick drum declares itself immediately. Little ticking sounds fill in the space, and echoey snaps act as a dreamy snare to establish the beat. Then, as soon as the vocals come in, we get these big brass hits that really act as the first indication of what key we're in. And speaking of key, this song is in C-sharp minor, which I love when dancey, fun pop songs come in a minor key. It just adds this dramatic flair that's really hard to achieve any other way. And now I'm gonna get nerdy with the brass notes. The brass hits go from C-sharp to G-sharp and repeat, so that's a nice little do-so action, but then it moves up to A and then B, which are La and T, which makes us long for that final high do to complete the scale. Rather than doing that, though, they fall back down to low do so they can repeat it all over again. So it gives a resolution, but not full satisfaction, and it keeps the third phrase interesting. I also want to shout out the choice to start the song with Yujin because her feathery and deep voice thrives in these lower ranges in a way that's very special to her, very tantalizing and alluring. Moving on to the pre-chorus, things start filling out more on all levels. More percussion, synths are now holding those brass hits out for longer, and the ooze switching the choppy texture of the verse into something dreamier. And that dreamy tone is only accentuated by Wonyoung's lazy and languid delivery that lags ever so slightly behind the beat. It's so good. And to nerd out about the brass again, the pre-chorus low-key switches keys, and I was so mad when I figured out how sneakily they did this. Okay, so the pre-chorus starts in the middle of the repeating brass bass line from verse 1, meaning we start on A, La, going to B, T. After that, they move to high Do, C sharp, but then they keep going up to E, which is high Mi. It feels like we've gone too far and skipped a step because, well, we have. We're supposed to land on Do, and Do is C sharp, but it's okay because Mi is still a decent landing point. So basically, this entire pre-chorus is based around E. And if we're basing it around E, you might as well consider it the new Do, and would you look at that, C sharp minor and E major are relative scales. If you've watched my video about why Dreamcatcher's Deja Vu is a masterpiece, then you already know what this means, but if not, in short terms, each major scale has a minor counterpart that uses the exact same notes. The only thing that makes them different is what single note they are based around, aka what note takes the role of Do, which makes them sound different because of how the other notes relate to each other. So this song is in C sharp minor, but this pre-chorus is based around E, which means you can read it as E major. Rather than the bass line going La, Ti, Do, Mi in C sharp minor, you can read it as Fa, So, La, Do in E major, which is a lot more satisfying. This switch to a major key also contributes to the floaty, dreamy tone because major keys just feel happier. And the best part is that it masterfully sets up the subversion of the chorus. Because while at the start of the pre-chorus, we work through the E major, Fa, So, La, Do, when it repeats, we don't hit that Do the second time around. It teases us by sitting on that La, which is C sharp, and sticking to it through the transition into the chorus, which eases us back into C sharp minor because C sharp is Do in that key. Brilliant. And so with that transition into a minor key, the chorus feels a little darker, which perfectly matches the lyrics and theme of the song. Of course, that's not the only thing that changes here. There's a lot happening. The short way to describe it is that the wub-wub of the chorus makes my brain feel good, but I think I can be a little more eloquent than that. There's a total switch up, and it's not just the instrumental that's making it so satisfying, because listen to this. It's mainly just a whirring sound and a kick drum, so it's actually the synthesized backing vocals making up most of that crunchy goodness. The ping pong bit breaks it up to keep it from feeling too heavy, and the melody leans heavily on syncopation. The first two syllables of each line are on beat, but the following bits aren't, creating this jerky stuttering as we're tossed between the on-beat and off-beat. And notice how that complete instrumental switch up in the chorus means that we haven't used those brass pulses that were everywhere in verse 1. They're just gone. I kind of miss them. On a totally unrelated note, I wonder how ever are we going to start the refrain that follows this chorus? So that was super effective. Also, add back in a ton of percussion layers and synths sustaining the chords, and you've got this big burst of energy. But that's not all, because listen to that chord progression. We're back to the A, B, C sharp, E from the pre-chorus, which means we're back in E major. Except we're not. I'm not gonna lie, this is still a little confusing to me because the instrumentals are acting like they're in E major, but the vocals are very much in C sharp minor, so we kind of have both going on at once, which is trippy, and I think what makes this song so dancey and fun, but also haunting, alluring, like, it seems happy, but there's just something eerie about it, and I think that this is the reason why. Come to think of it, maybe the vocals in the pre-chorus also lean C sharp minor. I don't even know anymore, but either way, this song keeps towing the line enough for me to question it. And as an alto, I need to highlight the lower harmony on the ooze because listen to how this clashes with the chord progression when it hits the E at the end. Like, that's some pretty bold, unresolved dissonance to just be throwing in the middle of a pop song's chorus, so respect. But what really makes this chorus and refrain work so well in the main part of the song is that they appeal to different audiences. The first chorus part is for people who like crunchy textures, tightly layered melodies, and slightly more dynamic lyrical lines. However, the refrain is for people who like a freer sound. It's a basic beat with a basic chord progression, and it largely relies on just ooze for the melody, which also means that anyone can sing along, regardless of their native language. So by making these sections so vastly different, they can hook double the audience with at least one part. Now, moving into verse 2, they suddenly strip everything down to just the ticking percussion set from the beginning, and everything largely repeats with just a couple of changes to keep things interesting. There's some ad-libs by, I think, Yujin, but correct me if I'm wrong. This little part with Liz gets a rhythmic switch up on top of some nice harmonies. And it all helps keep it fresh without deviating from the plot too much. The second pre-chorus and chorus are also pretty much the same, but there's one big change before the second refrain, which is the pause. I'm sure most of you already know exactly what I am talking about. It's just so... It tickles my brain so good every time, and I just want to applaud whoever decided to put that break in there because it is so satisfying. After that, we run into the dance break, which I remember getting some mixed reactions from fans because of how drastic the switch up is. It really relies on this heavy pulsing bass drone that's very different from the rest of the song, and this high whirring over top of it. But aside from the instrumental, this section is characterized by seductive whispers and muffled vocalizations, seeming like the darker counterpart to the rest of the song. Everything before now has still had a happier tone and a danceable beat, but this part feels a bit like peeling back the curtain to see the more nefarious side of this concept. It seems more honest about how sinister this narcissistic love can be, but at the same time, the way that all the vocal lines are either muffled or whispered still makes it hypnotizing. In the lead up to the final section of the song, there's this whooshing noise that slowly builds during the back half of the dance break to help build that tension. You can hear it really well during Wonyoung's final part. And rather than building to the anti-drop of the chorus, they skip straight to the refrain for the immediate quick release and instant gratification. The dance break serves a similar purpose as the chorus in that they both have that darker, subdued tone, so I think it's a good choice because it doesn't disrupt the flow of the song and keeps it from dragging. So the refrain closes out the song, but before I move on, I want to point out the absence of a rap section, which is normally a staple in the K-pop formula. IVE knew exactly what they were doing with that because K-pop often has the problem of wedging in rap sections where they aren't needed just so that the rappers can have lines. IVE doesn't have that issue though, since their rappers double as sub-vocalists. They can sing the entire song without forcing a rap in, which I think is crucial for a song like Love Dive that depends on this enchanting spiral to ensnare listeners. Similar to the song, Love Dive's choreography is full of these long, smooth extensions with quick, sharp moves to contrast them. It's shocking how well everything ties together with the themes and lyrics of this song. Like, don't tell me you don't get the urge to dance along to It's So Bad It's Good, because it's just such a clever move that's so easy to remember. I mean, just in the chorus alone, you get the narcissistic part with the mirror, the hand separation during the night shone upon the two, the little ping pong bit. They put a literal dive in the next part, outline their eyes during beautiful black eyes, and another little dive during diving deeper into you, the little body roll and the I'm watching you finger movement during you into me into you, and the final Love Dive finger movement is just, it's so good. Everything is so good and it matches up so nicely. But beyond how well it ties into the lyrics, it's just a fun and easy choreography that still looks amazing. It's very elegant and sticks to the theme in how mesmerizing it is. I mean, look at this little move here. I'm hypnotized. It's beautiful. Basically, give this choreographer a gold star because of how mindful and specific every little bit of it is. I think Love Dive can be credited with cementing IVE's image as the glossy, classy, popular girls in the minds of many. Everything about this era screamed elegant and expensive to an extent that not many other groups could replicate. Sure, glitz and glamour is nothing new to K-pop, but a lot of fourth-generation groups were lacking the grace that IVE had weaved into it. They weren't going for cutesy or hard-hitting, but rather something more mature, without being sexy, because there are minors in this group, no thank you. But with 11, Starship Entertainment was trying to carve out a unique space for IVE to exist within the fourth generation. I like to picture those action spy movies where they're lasering out a door for themselves in the middle of a wall. Well, Love Dive is like when they finish that part and finally kick the door in. It's the full realization of their rookie image. I also really liked the idea of having a narcissism concept mixed with a Cupid concept. Narcissism isn't really used purposefully as a concept much. A more recent example would be OOTD by Dreamcatcher. You should totally go check it out. So that would have been interesting enough, but adding in the love and infatuation angle with this self-aware facade makes it incredibly unique. Adding in how the concept is so well executed between the song, lyrics, choreography, styling, and just about every facet of the release, it gave IVE this rock-solid cohesion to their first comeback, which is a big deal. Debuts are big, yes, but I would almost argue that a group's first comeback matters more in getting their audience to follow them long-term. After people have had time to tune into a debut after it trickles through the grapevine, more people are waiting with bated breath to see what follows. If a group manages to release not only a strong debut, but also a strong first comeback that works hand in hand with it, it just builds this instant ethos that audiences can trust. So, since IVE had all of that on top of an interesting and well-executed concept, it's not hard to see why it blew up. I've already briefly mentioned the concept and how the lyrics are largely simplistic enough for both Korean and international audiences to follow, so I want to take this section to explore the meaning of the lyrics. Even if this didn't really contribute to its virality, it's still cool, so I'm talking about it. A lot of people have connected the lyrics to the Greek myth of Narcissus and Echo. There are a couple of different versions of the story, so if you're familiar, you might remember it a little differently, but basically, Narcissus is a really handsome guy who's told that he'll live a long life if he doesn't ever look at his reflection. He's a super prideful guy, which means he ends up breaking a lot of hearts, which angers some gods. Now, Echo is a beautiful nymph who is familiar with Zeus, which doesn't make his wife Hera happy. Hera goes to find Zeus, but Echo starts telling stories and keeps her chatting so that Zeus can get away. When Hera realizes this, she gets very angry and curses Echo so that she can only ever repeat the words of others and never voice any thoughts of her own. We love a woman who stands by her serial cheater of a husband and only ever punishes the women he sleeps with. If you couldn't tell, I have massive beef with Hera, but it's fine. One day, Narcissus goes out into the woods with his friends where Echo sees him and falls in love. Like, total infatuation right away. Narcissus hears someone in the brush and calls out, "Anyone here?" Echo is able to respond, "Here," and Narcissus, thinking it's one of his friends, tells Echo to join him. She throws her arms around him, he gets startled by this random woman and yells at her to go away, and Echo, in true dramatic Greek mythology fashion, slinks off and dies, leaving only her voice. Now, Narcissus just walks off and is lured to a pool by one of several gods depending on the version of the story. It might be because he broke a ton of hearts or specifically Echo's, but he ends up there, leans down for a drink, and sees his reflection. Gazing in his own eyes, he's immediately infatuated and, would you look at that, also dies. In some versions, he wastes away staring at himself, but in other versions, he falls into the pond trying to reach his reflection and drowns. Almost like a narcissistic love dive? Perhaps he tried to hold his breath on the way down? You could also add in the argument that they're trying to tie in the god Cupid, what with the concept photos and the title of that one preview and the focus on love, and Cupid is tied very strongly to Psyche, so basically, Le Seraphim and IVE have an interconnected lore. In this essay, Am I overanalyzing? Absolutely. Does this have anything to do with why Love Dive went viral? Nope, but this is still great fun for Greek mythology nerds like me, so I appreciate you indulging me. So that is all I have for why Love Dive went viral. This one was a little late. I intended for it to go out around the time that Heya was released because, timing and relevancy, but alas, life got in the way. Luckily, IVE is doing a little double title track thing, so I'm still relevant. Kind of. It's good enough. I'll take it. But that does it for this video. Thank you so much for watching. Let me know in the comments if there's anything you think that I missed, or did you maybe discover something new or find something super interesting? I love hearing from you. And a quick little channel announcement before I go. My life is kind of crazy right now. In fact, as this video goes up, I will be walking to my seat at my college graduation, and then I am moving, and then I start my first big girl full-time job. So a lot is happening. All good things, all exciting things, but time-consuming things nonetheless. So don't be shocked if I kind of drop off the face of the earth for a couple of months. I am still alive. I'm just adjusting to an entirely new phase in my life, so videos will probably be a little slow while I figure things out. But if you liked this video, please drop a like and subscribe to the channel, as it really helps me out. Thanks again for watching, and I will talk to you all next time. Bye!